Hello and welcome to This Week at the Movies. I'm Matt.
And I'm Eric.
And we are back together for a super powered episode because Fantastic Four is out kicking off the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 6 and all that is to come in the next 3 years. We are also going to be going back. Eric saw the new Superman, which kicks off a whole new vision for the DCU. They've removed the E. Apparently, there's no extension in James Gunn's world. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. We're going to be going back and forth about that because these are kind of the two big tent poles here. Probably the two movies that'll be most compared against one another this summer, especially as DC and Marvel battle for foothold. So far, it's looking good for Marvel because on the preview screenings, I don't know if you saw, they made a couple million more, which was a surprise because everyone thought that this was going to be less robust with the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Have people grown weary? They have not. But let's dive right in. The Fantastic Four, first steps for Fantastic Four in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not the first time we've seen these four collection of heroes on the big screen. In fact, I was noting to Eric, it seems like the last 20 years, every 10 years, we get a new vision of the Fantastic Four. In 2005, we got Jessica Alba and Michael Chiklis and Chris Evans before they realized he'd be a better Captain America, and Ian Gaffard. I would struggle. There's like no vowels in his last name. I don't really understand how the Scottish work that out. And that one was successful enough to have one sequel in 2007, but it was not a widely well regarded. Then in 2015, Josh Trank took over and had a lightning cast. Miles Teller, Michael B. Jordan, Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, and Toby Kebbell, and that movie is a hot mess. And if you cannot make a superhero movie with Miles Teller and Michael B. Jordan work, it's not surprising that your next movie is going to be Al Capone played as a man who is incontinent.
Well, that
which is just
was rife with controversy of like, we're going to promise you can make one kind of movie. We're going to start studio noting you to death. Oh, you're going to throw a baby tantrum and get yourself kicked off as director. And then we're going to studio finish your movie. And so Susan Storm is going to, in like 40% of scenes, be wearing this bleach blonde wig she had to put on for all the reshoots. And you can literally do like original, reshoot from like shot to shot because she's got this wig on.
It's just not good, and
it's bad.
But then now in 2025, Fox was acquired by Marvel, and we've waited to see. They are promising to reboot the X-Men sometime after this phase concludes, when the MCU resets entirely. So we will see how that goes. But Fantastic Four on a new Earth 828. We go back a little bit in time, a very 60s vibe, but an alternate 60s. I don't know about you, it felt like a very Jetsons vibe to me in a good way. I think the production design and the look of this world is one of the best things about this movie. But I actually, you drop in media res, you're not have exactly an origin story. You're in the middle of an established, they've been going strong for 4 years. You get a quick recap of how they got there as part of a show within the show on the movie, and then almost immediately we're off to the races with the story as the Silver Surfer arrives and heralds the coming of Galactus, and the four have to spring into action. Sue Storm pregnant, their baby, a big part of the storyline here. A crisp hour and 55 minutes, including the credits and the post-credit scenes. A little bit of a shorter ride. I thought that suited it pretty well. It's about 15 minutes shorter than Superman, which is Superman was on the shorter side among, the most recent superhero films, or even some of the bloated action films of summer. This movie is just 2 minutes longer with credits than I Know What You Did Last Summer, which should tell you something about how movies have spiraled out of control. But I was a little nervous about this. I wasn't wild about the casting ahead of time, but it worked for me. I know not everyone has enjoyed Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards here, and I get it, but I thought Vanessa Kirby was stunning as Sue Storm.
Mhm.
I am I'm giving this a solid thumbs up. I had a good time with this. This is one of my favorite movies of the year so far.
Cool. Yeah, I had a blast with this movie, but mostly because it was blasting me in the face going as fast as possible. Like the most immediate thing that it took me a while for it to sink in was that immediate, just simple subtitle of Earth 828. This is not Earth. This is not your Earth. And it's very important because the world
is the MCU Earth is 616, right?
Yeah. And it is very clear that it's not adjacent to our world because they make a lot of conceits really quickly that the Fantastic Four are geniuses. They're diplomats. So they're most equipped to be the first people to ever go into space. And they expand into roles where they're basically world leaders and there's world peace and world communication and everyone looks up to them as
basically the world army.
Everything. Yeah. Like, and when they come back and they're in this conundrum where it's we want to save the world but not at the expense of our family. Everyone in the world is like, well, come on, it's like one person versus the entire world, and you think there would be rioting, you think there would be everything, but no, people revere them so much that all they do is kind of step out and speak, and the entire world listens and mobilizes to follow any plan they come up with in order to make things work. It's a very alien planet that we are asked to accept immediately, and they do a surprisingly good job.
But then there was that charming speech about family.
Yeah,
it's harder to demand the sacrifice of a baby if you have to stare at that baby.
Yeah, it's true, but it was extremely effective and worked for what it was. But there was very much a lot of we've only been to space once before. We were going to space a second time, but I've built a machine that lets us travel faster than the speed of light. Okay, accept that. Let's go. And all right, we accept it. We go. And Johnny, your suit is like specially made, but you can only use the oxygen for 10 minutes. And you see them almost in real time arrive at the place and walk. And then you see how long Johnny has his fire lit up for, and it's like a minute and a half of screen time, and then it's like, boop, you got 10% left. You're running out. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, we knew the stakes were going to be. We've seen movies before. We know that if you set a time limit, he's going to run out of that time limit. So we know how it's going to work, and we move on. It kind of continues like that, where it just keeps being like, we're gonna have a baby with no gravity in space. Well, let's use this black hole. We run out of our space jumper that lets us travel faster than the speed of light. Well, let's slingshot around the thing. Fine. Everything is just like, we've seen movies before. We know how things operate. So when the characters say that they're going to do something, you sort of, just like the world in there is like, okay, well, you guys are the smartest people, so we just accept that you're going to do what you're going to do. We sort of do that. And that's kind of the greatest thing about the movie, is how solidly they built the core 4 characters. Ben Grimm, I think, has the least to shine in out of the 4 of them, but he still was incredibly enjoyable and played the role that he generally plays in the group. Johnny having this impulsive, hot-headed sort of wit about him, where he is an intellect, he is a brain, he was on the space launch mission for a reason, but he still has to think fast, act quick, and he is the person to like, oh, Galactus is chained up to a bunch of like things. I'm going to go around, I'm going to blast those things, that's going to afford us the distraction we need to escape. Go. And he just flies off. Reed, with like the pressure of the world on him, constantly trying to come up with solutions, like with the weight of the world on his shoulders, I thought was really well done. And of course, Vanessa Kirby, as Susan Storm, then as a mother, then as, like she's a fairly, the most, I think, rounded out of all of them, and it was just so easy to follow them. Their family dynamics were solid, the characters were believable to who they were for the comics, and the movie was just a great showcase of like 60s vibes, Marvel's first family, huge celebration of what they are, completely independent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the Fantastic Four movie, 100% in your face. Take the tone, take all of it, like, and go. And I had a blast with it. It was a really strong thumbs up for me too. I the Julia Garner Silver Surfer, I thought worked for me really well. She just had a couple of beats to follow through with, essentially a very similar arc to what happens in 2007's Rise of the Silver Surfer. But we sort of know what's going to happen, so they do just enough to pay off the emotions of what's going to happen, and it works. That's sort of the same thing I feel about Superman. Is Superman was just like loaded with 100% of what you could possibly fit into a Superman movie. It's got this big brash label of Superman slapped over the top of it, just like this is the big brash label of Fantastic Four slapped over the top of it. And that package is just filled with a constantly unpacked item after item of celebrating the property that it is. So, great.
Yeah, so kind of the two big, comic book studios at a little bit of a crossroads. We'll take Superman first because, it came out first. Obviously, James Gunn has a vision for this, is the driving force behind the whole thing. This would be almost on a Marvel sense if Kevin Feige was coming out and actually making the movies, because kind of architecting the world. But James Gunn with his partner Peter Safran architecting the world. We've seen a couple of things from him. His Suicide Squad was technically in the DCEU, but those are characters that are carrying over to the new DC because we can't figure out how all these things work.
Maybe.
But definitely, Amanda Waller's already been in there. Peacemaker's already been in there.
But Peacemaker season 1 is not canon, and only Peacemaker season 2 is. So you can't count any of the history of Peacemaker season 1 when you factor into Peacemaker season 2. And then, as people have pointed out, Idris Elba in Suicide Squad is famously in jail for shooting a bullet and managing to hit Superman. But the beginning of Superman points out Superman's only been working for 3 years and he just lost his first fight like 3 minutes ago. And like as they go together, piecing and retconning everything that's happened before Superman and Creature Commandos is like, you're going to find out what actually counts and what doesn't as it gets sloughed off.
I mean, but even in Creature Commandos, and they carried it over into this with Rick Flag Sr., and if you were watching Creature Commandos, he talks about taking over this unit after his son was killed, and they have the same Amanda Waller, which is Viola Davis. So I think that's going to be an impossible thing to do. There's also rumors that Henry Cavill is going to be Batman in Batman the Brave and the Bold.
Oh man, wouldn't that be something?
Well, apparently, James Gunn has felt bad and wants to put him in something because the studio made a mistake and announced another Superman movie with him right at the same time they're finalizing the deal for. But basically, a lot of pressure was put on this movie to set up a new vision for DC moving forward. We got introductions to the Justice Gang characters who will carry over, presumably part of the Justice League. We know that Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner will be in the show Lanterns from Damon Lindelof, though that one will more focus on Jon Stewart, as played by Aaron Pierce, I think. Who's playing that. We also saw Millie Alcock's Supergirl. That movie is up next summer. There you have a Clayface movie that's coming pretty soon. But how do you feel about where the DCU is going based on what you saw with Superman?
I think it's going into James Gunn's head, and that's the thing that I was worried about. And I really enjoyed Superman, so it feels good so far because it was just like a capital S Superman movie. But it also, was sharing a world of characters James Gunn is interested in. and I need to see something that he has approved that he didn't make to get a better sense of what this universe is going to be and whether or not it's going to stand or if it's going to be his sort of control. Like, he insists that they're going for more of the tone of, like, if you hold up comic books and you see the variety of different artists and tones that are out there, these movies are not all going to fit into the same aesthetic and feel of one another. Like, a horror movie about Clayface is not going to feel like it fits in the world of Superman, even though it will be canon to the universe. So it really depends on what happens next, but I'm happy with what I saw here. And I wasn't sure about him being a fan of Superman, like how I was going to end up feeling about that character. And he pulled it off in a way that made me feel like he was honest to who Superman the person was, regardless of what happens with, his history and his origin story and whatnot. And
you know what makes me nervous about Clayface? It's the guy that directed Speak No Evil. Is directing that.
He didn't write Speak No Evil.
Let's double check. Yes, he did.
He did. Okay. No, but I mean, he didn't come up with the concept for Speak No Evil. I'm saying, so he adapted.
Written for the screen. Last summer, Speak No Evil. That was not a movie that you enjoyed.
No, but it also.
But this one being written by
Hossein
Amini and Mike Flanagan, and I do like Mike Flanagan. It does make it seem like it's going to be a horror movie. I wonder if we're going to first see Batman in that, though, because the description says a shape-shifting creature made of magical clay haunts Gotham City, alternating between being a villain and ally of Batman over the years. Yeah. So that might actually be a backdoor where they're going to have to commit to, or they could do it the way Fantastic Four did. You just see the back of a costume and know it's somebody's in there.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
But I liked this one. It gave me a little more hope. I was real mid on his Suicide Squad. I was very excited for it before, and I've sort of reflected on this the last couple of weeks, trying to think over what because I love James Gunn when he did Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is my favorite MCU movie, full stop, and one of my favorite movies of all time. And I really enjoyed his Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was trying to think why I bump against some of the things he's done for DC, because from a visual standpoint, from a tonal standpoint, they're very similar. And I said a couple of weeks ago, I think Rachel Brosnahan and that performance is the greatest incarnation of Lois Lane that I've ever seen on the screen, TV show, film. She was incredible. I actually, on my end of year acting rankings, have her number one.
Wow.
For actresses. I loved it. There were some parts, with her and David Cornswell. I thought he was very good too. I thought Nicholas Hoult did a good job. There were some world building elements I liked. There are some things I like. And I don't know if it's just, I didn't really know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy and had no frame of reference before I saw it on film. Whereas Superman, we have 40 years of a frame of reference. And I think the things, and even Suicide Squad following after we had gotten a version of the Suicide Squad that I actually kind of liked, with characters I liked, it really, his film really took a dump on those characters and the things that I liked from that first movie. And there are elements of that I bump against with Superman. And that's what makes me wonder about the rest of the world. I'm with you, though. I would like to see, I liked what Andy Muschietti did with The Flash, which was almost more of a Batman movie than a Flash movie.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious to see, what is he going to do with Batman the Brave and the Bold? Supergirl, kind of a blank canvas. I know Helen Slater did it on the big screen. That was not a great movie. I enjoyed the CW show with Melissa Benoist. I actually liked the Flash from there too. I may have when they did the movie casting, put "Not My Flash" and a picture of Grant Gustin. So I've liked version, but that feels like more of a blank slate. I'm curious to see what they do. We have not had probably a definitive take on Supergirl. That feels like a more open. I'm really have no idea what they're going to do with Batman. There are a lot of ways that we can go. We've seen Batman, some good, some really not good swings at that world over the years.
And I feel like it's funny because Superman is all about like showcase the whole world, but then they didn't touch Gotham City or Batman with a 10-foot pole. They're very
and I'm very high on Lanterns because I love Damon Lindelof. And Damon Lindelof is a very singular vision. His sequel series for Watchmen is outstanding. And that is a case where I loved the film, which was a Zack Snyder film. And I love the show, which very different. And from Damon Lindelof. So I think I feel probably more excited about the future of the DCU after seeing Superman. I was pretty nervous about that, but it worked well enough for me. I gave it thumbs up. It's not my favorite Superman, but there are elements of it that I think are the best. Okay, well, let's go over. Obviously, Marvel has been in a little bit of a mini funk, but both you and I liked Thunderbolts. I thought that was a very solid end to Phase 5. Ironheart was up and down. I don't know if you saw any of that Disney Plus series. It was up and down. They did finally unveil Mephisto, and that was fine. It was objectively fine, but a lot riding on Fantastic Four in the same way because they have said that the next two Avengers, Doomsday and then Secret Wars, are going to be kind of a hard reset by the end of 27. A lot of speculation that hard reset is going to plunge us into Earth 828, and that's where we're going to go.
I hope not, because that is a weird world to be in, where everyone is just like uniformly like, yes, the heroes are in charge. Like,
well, maybe
weird.
Yeah, it'd be better. Obviously, introducing these characters feels almost as important in the kind of structure they're setting up as when they wheeled out Captain Marvel between Infinity War and Endgame. Let's hope they deploy them better. Maybe
deploy who
in Avengers.
Oh yeah.
It's like Captain Marvel going to be very important, and then was she though?
Yeah. On the well, there's been a leak. I don't know if I should talk about it.
Yeah, I think it's fine. We obviously, if you watch this movie, the mid-credits sequence very much leads into the whole next Avengers movie is built around a villain that canonically from the comic books is the number one adversary of the Fantastic Four. So it kind of makes sense that they are going in that direction. And it would make sense that it's from that dimension that we're getting this Doctor Doom, since the casting that they have elected to make. What are you?
So the leaked concept art footage includes at least one panel of Reed Richards near Doom on a throne, like kneeling at his feet in a captured position. But most recently, there have been a couple of things that came out around the same time. Alan Cumming, who plays Nightcrawler, leaked that he has been filming a scene of combat with Reed Richards and gotten a lot of trouble with his publicist over it. And there's this hint that the point of view character, much like Infinity War circled kind of around Thor and Thanos, is going to be Reed Richards for Avengers Doomsday. And I'm curious about that because I was really happy that Fantastic Four was standalone, like do its own thing. But I was kind of yearning to figure out how and for what reason they are showing up at the end of Thunderbolts. And I just feel like all we have
because we never got to that point.
Spider-Man.
I kept thinking that at some way we were going to get to the point where they launch out, which there's a lot of they said that post-credit scene in Thunderbolts was actually shot by the Russos, so there is some thought that that might have actually just been a chunk out of Doomsday.
Well, yeah, like so the all we have left is Spider-Man and then the Avengers movie. And I feel like if we're focused entirely on a Spider-Man that no one remembers, he's Peter Parker and he's doing street level things like everyone says the movie is going to be, I feel like it's going to be very standalone. And I feel like we're not going to be doing the same building that we traditionally do towards these big villains. And
I think Spider-Man's going to tie more into what they're doing with Daredevil Reborn, because there's already confirmation that Charlie Cox and John Bernthal are in the new Spider-Man movie.
Charlie Cox is in it? I've heard John Bernthal. I haven't heard Charlie Cox.
Yeah, I thought I saw something
cool.
that they're both in there, which would make some sense because if they're all operating in New York at the same time.
Yeah.
Tonally, I don't know how the Punisher, played by John Bernthal, fits into the kind of tone of movies we've seen with Spider-Man. I mean, they managed to have Charlie Cox's.
Yeah, that's always been a thing. There's this great small run of comics that I have where it is a team up of a Punisher, woman who is essentially a female Punisher, Spider-Man, and Daredevil, where the dynamic is that Daredevil has basically the same relationship we know with Frank. Spider-Man does not tolerate the Punisher, does not understand his involvement at all, does not like anything that he does. And a huge aspect of Spider-Man functioning with the Punisher is Spider-Man is constantly spinning plates, preventing the Punisher from using like his spider senses and everything to prevent the Punisher from being excessively violent and continuing to combat enemies and do what he's doing. I feel like they're going to get away with it because Frank is going to try to be Frank, and then Spider-Man is just going to continually successfully prevent him, as he would any other bank robbers or anybody, from being successful with the violent impulses that he has.
Well, and this might be a very different kind of Spider-Man film because they changed writer and director. You know, and I feel like John Watts heavily influenced the creativity and the tone of the previous three, and now that, you know, they kind of wiped out that world of him, you know, maybe this will end up being something darker.
Yeah, something.
So, but are you more or less excited for Doomsday? I have to say, I didn't mind. I liked all of the Fantastic Four, but you saying the POV for the entire Avengers thing might be Reed Richards gives me pause, because I do think Pedro Pascal was the weakest link of the four. I didn't think he was
I don't know.
but there are a number of people that absolutely loathed that performance.
Now, when I say I don't understand loathing. I never understood the hate against like Pedro Pascal, like especially because this world is not like our Earth. So like every reservation people had about like, well, Reed is a person who comes from privilege and is, you know, like, you know, like whatever. Like I think people are just kind of like burned out, like socially, on Pedro Pascal from his like constant exposure for The Last of Us and everything.
This is the fourth thing he's done.
Yeah.
This is the third movie and two back to back, because he's a big part of Eddington, which opened last week, and he was in Materialist, and both those are movies that were real polarizing and have mixed views. But the same thing may end up being true next year, because Avengers Doomsday is in December. When is Mandalorian and Grogu? I thought that was pretty close to Q4 also.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that when I say point of view character, I mean kind of like Thor in Infinity War, and that doesn't mean he's center stage and he's running the whole thing. It just means that they're not going to be, you know, pushed off kind of the way the Guardians of the Galaxy were pushed off, you know, like Rocket and Groot took like a side role in Thor's story in Infinity War, and the rest of them had like a moment to face Thanos, and Gamora had her moment with Thanos, but they had their part in the movie and it kind of tapered away. And I don't feel like that's going to necessarily be,
Well,
I think if Doctor Doom is your main villain, Mr. Fantastic is going to be a very central protagonist regardless of what you do.
the thing is, though, too, with Infinity War, they had a decade of pouring into those characters. So Tony Stark, we first met him in 2008. Infinity War is 2018. Captain America, Thor, the Hulk. We had a long time to pour in, and there was a big excitement about pulling all these people that have inhabited this shared universe together. Like, I was excited to see the Guardians of the Galaxy with
Finally,
and it didn't,
yeah.
and though from that sense it didn't disappoint, everybody coming together and part of a big saga. I think that it's a little bit of a tougher hill to climb here, because not only have you taken like an actor who played two actors who played the most iconic, because people have caught shots of Chris Evans filming for Doomsday, and we're all pretty damn sure he's not Captain America that we have known and loved. So you take two, no matter how you felt, I was always more Team Iron Man, especially after Captain America 3. I can't remember.
Yeah, Civil
War. But Tony Stark and Captain America were, the icon, and
like the core.
Now they're going to be on the other side, and you have the new Avengers that we have built, which there are some fun pieces, but this is still new.
Well, I think it's very
who's
telling
left to be in Sam Wilson's Avengers, but his last movie, his solo movie, was an unmitigated miss.
It was super messy.
And now
you
have these
the bare beginnings
who
of trying to
we liked, but
redirect.
we just are getting to know. And so that's where I think there's a lot more heavy lifting required. I'm not excited, but there is a lot more heavy lifting required for this to be successful than I think there was going into Infinity.
Well, and I think it's very telling that they're not leaning on the new properties. They're leaning on the X-Men. They've cast a large majority of Fox's X-Men and Channing Tatum to come back for this movie. And I feel like it's
they better bring Deadpool into this. That's all I gotta say, because
I'm sure he's gonna be in Secret Wars if he's not in this. Secret Wars is gonna be everybody imaginable sharing some sort of piled in screen time, and it's going to do this final recut chunk whatever happens next
is this new thing. Long, by the way, we're gonna have to go back to having intermissions in the theater.
But yeah, I don't think they're leaning too much on it's going to be a movie where the Thunderbolts meet the Fantastic Four and Captain America is in the lead and is trying to re-recruit the Avengers to battle Dr. Doom. No, it's going to be some wild Dr. Doom is in the 828 universe, but then uses Franklin Richards to jump over to another universe, and the Fantastic Four chase him, and it ends up Earth 616. But no, not Earth 616. The Earth, whatever that Beast was in, where Captain Marvel ended up.
Not Captain Marvel.
What's her
I
name?
know who you're talking about. Yeah.
I can't remember her superhero name, but Monica Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau. Again, though, I enjoyed the Marvels for what it was. But that movie was not wildly popular, and you're gonna have another piece built on that. That's where I'm like, who is left to be in the Avengers? Because Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow are gone. So hopefully the Hulk, I guess, Thor is still around and kicking. Sam. I was just trying to think, who do they have?
She-Hulk. Not Moon Knight. I think he's going to be booted off and doing his season 2 thing. Spider-Man.
But But that's a question mark whether.
But they know who Spider-Man is. I don't think they know Peter Parker, but I think, people still remember that Spider-Man helped.
Hawkeye is still alive.
Hawkeye, yeah. And then you have like the younger characters that they sort of abandoned this, but they tried to set up Kate Bishop, Miss Marvel.
Oh, Ant-Man. Not the Wasp,
Ant-Man.
because apparently she's retired from acting.
Really?
Evangeline Lilly, yeah.
No kidding. All right.
She said she was retired from acting. We'll see though. But presumably Ant-Man. It's just the people that you have left. Their most recent outing, I wouldn't consider it successful. It'd be like if they launched Infinity War on the heels of the Incredible Hulk and Thor: The Dark World, and you were like, oh, right.
Yeah.
But so it's going to be, and honestly, the Russos put together two good Avengers movies, but everything they've done since Avengers Endgame as director has been horrendous. So it's like, is the old magic coming back?
I don't think that Doomsday is going to be Infinity War. No. I think what they're doing is Captain America, big name, big title, Thunderbolts / the New Avengers, like a team of scrappers, like Guardians of the Galaxy, like something like that. The Fantastic Four, the first family, back to their roots, the beginning of it. Spider-Man, one of their biggest properties and their biggest names, and the X-Men. And they happen to intermingle with the rest of it. I think it's going to be a Fantastic Four meets the X-Men movie. And then I think Secret Wars is just going to jump to an Endgame situation. So I kind of think that they're building on this, and this is what I thought of when they went back to Dr. Doom, when they announced the Fantastic Four, when they did all this. I was like, really, it's interesting that the properties that we're moving forward into are like the classic Fantastic Four, X-Men, Spider-Man, Hulk, are like your traditional from the 90s, what was popular, like what's going to bring back your.
Don't you wonder where they might have started the MCU if they had the rights to all their properties when they began? Because Marvel had built out the rights, and it took them a while to buy everything back, and they've spent a long time now building.
And with the start of Phase 4, it seemed like their whole idea was like more female-led. Let's do the Young Avengers. We're going to talk about doing an X-Men movie, but it's not going to be the traditional X-Men lineup. It's going to be new characters. Let's branch off and discover the multiverse. And they got really, really ambitious, assuming people would follow them along for everything they were doing. And then everything started to kind of fall apart. And now I think they are just restructuring to pull a little bit more on the nostalgia and fandom of the properties that held them up when Marvel was struggling in the era where they originally sold off all their film rights. Daredevil, like the only one that doesn't have a solo property coming out, again, because Universal, is Hulk. But I think if they had Hulk, like that would be the other big project they would be working on. I just get the sense that they're trying to hold on to and cling on to their A-list properties now and push those to the forefront of the MCU to bring people back so that they can do this Secret Wars movie, which is this unbelievable blitz of you can see everything there is to see in the Marvel Universe. And now that everyone is back on board, let's restart and sell our A-list properties and then gradually sprinkle in our B-list properties and see how long we can sustain ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely have had a long run of success, and I'm not out on Doomsday. I still think it's a tougher proposition. I like a lot was riding on Fantastic Four, and I thought it was better than I was expecting. So that makes me a little hopeful. And we'll see. Thunderbolts definitely was what we were hoping it would be. So they've rebounded a little bit from. I was pretty nervous after I saw Captain America: Brave New World, because I was like, "Who?"
Yeah, this creative trajectory of them saying like the TV shows are going to be canon, but they're no longer going to be feeding directly into the MCU movies. Like we're not going to do another The Marvels. The idea that the movies are going to be their own trajectory of a story and that the TV shows are going to be secondary supplementary stories. I like that a lot. I like that I like that we're done with movies for the year. We have to wait an entire other year for another Marvel movie, and it's going to be Spider-Man. And then we have to wait another half a year for the other Marvel movie, and it's going to be the Avengers. And then we will have to wait another full year of no Marvel movies to get to Secret Wars.
But they do have projects, though. They have a number of
all TV show,
small screen,
Punisher, Daredevil season 2, Eyes of Wakanda, Wonder Man. Like they do have stuff coming out all the time to keep people engaged and interested. But again, all that stuff is not going to, it's not like they're building Wonder Man because you have to know who Wonder Man is. Like you have to have watched Loki to understand Kang in Quantumania to build towards the Kang Dynasty Avengers movie that they were gonna make. They have
did you see
that sort of networking
that Kang
oh my gosh
might actually still be in here, and they're like, and I was like, really? Mighty.
I still don't understand why they didn't just recast him. Kevin Feige came out with this BS, nobody believes it thing where he was like, oh, we realized Kang was no Thanos and we were going to pivot. Even before Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, we were having conversations about pivoting to Dr. Doom. Like, you bullshit. No way. Like,
Well, I do wonder if they originally had a plan that they would do Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars and kind of reset the table, and then they wanted to start
to do Dr. Doom. It
ended up being like, well, there's no way we can.
No, see, that's the thing that it seemed like it was going to be is I know they were going to do a Fantastic Four movie, but like it felt like it was going to be Kang and multiverse and gradually introduce chaos in a multiverse up until this like big closing off point where you now have one consolidated timeline of all of their properties that they got back floating together in a cohesive universe, and then tell a linear story in that universe. And your next good big bad to do that would have been Doomsday. The crazy thing is, after Thanos and Dr. Doom and already getting rid of Kang, I think you're going to be hard pressed to find a big bad to build a multi-phase arc towards.
Well, do they end up going in a different way?
Maybe. Like maybe they keep it a little more low key. Maybe the Avengers movies are events where it's not building towards like 4 Avengers movies leads to a big explosion or anything like that. Like maybe.
Yeah. I mean, X-Men managed to keep things going, just battling the government and Magneto for 6 or 7, 8 movies.
Yeah.
If we're counting Dark Phoenix, which I guess. Yeah. I forgot Simon Kinberg was the executive producer of the Josh Trank Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
That explained a lot.
He was all over the Fox stuff.
Hopefully no more. Well, that does it for our superheroes. Before we get out of here, a couple of other movies that dropped. Oh, yep.
Before we do that, do you have a card?
Oh, yes. Let me pull it.
And is it the Fantastic Four?
A young boy finally figures out that his imaginary friend is an asshole. So I'll let you
a young boy.
A young boy finally figures out that his imaginary friend is an asshole.
So it's not Fight Club because he's a young boy.
No, it's a young boy. I'll let you mull that over for a little bit. Before we get out of here too, a couple other movies that are out. Another release, if you're looking for something a little bit smaller, the comedy Oh Hi from Sophie Brooks, co-written by Brooks and Molly Gordon, who is the star in here. I will just say, I saw somebody say this is What If Gerald's Game was a comedy. And I think it fits perfectly. And I can't get that description out of my head. I actually had some fun with this. She and Logan Lerman are pretty good. Geraldine Viswanathan is in there, and Josh Reynolds. I had fun with this cast. David Cross pops up. Desmond Portages pops up in there. But Molly Gordon is great in the lead here. It was unexpected. It was delightful. It was quirky. It was weird. It worked for me. On Netflix, we got the long-awaited sequel, Happy Gilmore 2. This is packed full of a bunch of cameos. Picks up following the adventures of Happy Gilmore, the hockey player turned golfer. Now, 29 years later, the original film was released in 1996. If you are a fan of the original film, you will probably like this okay. Some people who are hardcore fans I saw have buffed against it. Happy Gilmore was never my favorite of those classic Adam Sandler comedies. I just thought it was okay. I liked this one decently enough. I would probably give it a thumbs neutral. I thought it was okay. Oh, hi. I would give a mild thumbs up. I had a lot of fun with that. Next week, for sure, I will be back looking at the reboot of The Naked Gun and the new horror film Together, which I have actually already seen. Alison Brie and Dave Franco are incredible. And that was a movie that I liked quite a bit. So we'll talk about that a little more next week. Your hint for this movie is it's set during World War II. Maybe you've never seen this one.
The Boy in the Striped Pajamas?
It's a Taika Waititi film.
Oh. It's not Jojo Rabbit.
It is Jojo.
It is Jojo Rabbit? Who's his imaginary friend?
Adolf Hitler.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yes. When you know what the film is, that clue actually makes a lot of sense. But that clue out of context is like
it's making me think. Like I feel like I remember some
that
90s movie.
That is a very good Scarlett Johansson performance.
Oh my gosh!
I love Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit is great.
It's hilarious, but it's also gutting.
Yeah,
like you don't even
the
like
feet.
The frame.
Feet made me cry. Like
feet, you're just sitting there wiped out. I think that is an underrated film. It unfortunately launched that whole award season, and that year of movies kind of got messed up because it was launched right into the COVID season. That was
2019, right?
Yeah, that was December of 2019, and things kind of went off the rails. But that was the same year Knives Out came out. That movie, there were some
2019
bangers.
was a good year.
There were some bangers that
Parasite,
people don't think about a lot,
which I know is not your bag, but like The Lighthouse, like my wife was pregnant.
Top 10 that year,
running up to December.
Norwood Lighthouse.
Yeah, no Lighthouse for me too. But as far as like memorable experiences in a theater,
definitely memorable.
Yeah.
I don't know if I probably need to watch Parasite again. By the time I saw it, because it wasn't out, people were saying it was like the greatest film ever made, and I just thought it was fine.
Yeah. What is this?
So
Joker, Alita, Battle Angel. No, this.
I said it was a banger of a year, and you just keep ticking off things
I know.
that are meant to dampen my enthusiasm. I did like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm trying to remember. There was a whole bunch of
Dr. Sleep.
Yeah, that was a good Mike Flanagan one.
X-Men Dark Phoenix.
All right, and on that note, when we've gone all the way around to touch two of the worst films ever made in Joker and Dark Phoenix, it is time to wrap it up. I actually, it's a toss-up whether I'd rather watch Dark Phoenix again or Joker. I might lean towards Dark Phoenix. The disappointment that can't hurt you. That'll do it for us this week. Both Superman and Fantastic Four are still playing in theaters. You should go and check them both out, especially if you're a superhero fan. These are going to be important films for building what's to come in the next couple of years. And I think both of them deliver a pretty good time at the theater. So It'll be fun. It was good to be back together. Hopefully, we'll be back together in a few weeks talking about the best of summer. It has actually been a pretty spectacular summer, and we still have a couple of fun ones to go. Naked Gun comes out next week. Weapons on the 8th of August. Nobody 2 on August 15th, and Caught Stealing August 29th from Darren.
Oh, I want to see Caught Stealing.
So there are quite a few things I'm excited about coming up in this next month. So we will see how it all wraps up, getting closer to the big awards season as well. But always good to see you, Eric, and always good to be back together. Until next time, we will see you guys at the movies.